What's up, football fans? Welcome to another episode of The Extra Point. I'm not going to lie, we had probably the best show that we have ever had last week going through the redraft do not draft list. And I thought it was only appropriate, seeing as tonight we are going through the redraft league winners, to bring the same crew back. So we're running it back. We're not scared. We got Classic Mike from Get Right Fantasy Network hanging out. We got Kendall VanDerBilt from the Fantasy Football Tavern. What up, boys?
What up, man? Excited being back on another Thursday night here, trying to go over winners instead of losers this time.
Right.
Oh, I'm excited.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. I know last week in the chat, man, we had some folks that were we're getting a little spicy in there. So we'll see what the chat looks like again tonight. May get a little spice in there. So if you're new to the show, jump in. Let us know you're here. Post a comment as we get into obviously our league winners tonight. Let us know some of yours. You know, not every single player we're going to bring up you might agree with, you might disagree. That's literally the whole point of why we do this. So let's start at the top. I want to bang through these announcements and then let's get to the good stuff, man.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, y'all know what to do. Hit that like and subscribe button. I am 5 subscribers. Hey, 5 subscribers away from the century mark. Let's go.
Yeah.
If for those that don't know, real quick, I told all my buddies, my internal circle of friends, hey, I'm going to start a podcast. It's going to be live by the time the football season starts. I'm 4 months ahead of schedule. I'm at 100 subscribers almost. So I'm pleased with where I'm at. We got a long journey ahead, but thanks to everyone that's been supporting the show so far. And obviously, thanks for those that are going to continue to support going forward. You can always listen on Spotify and Patreon. If you can't make the live show, we always do the recordings and I post those every Friday. I'm a staff writer for Dynasty Pros. So if you're looking for written content and rankings, jump over to dynastyprosfootball.com. Check out some of my written content there. 2 cool announcements, and then we're going to dive right into our league winners starting at the quarterback position. I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess this up again, but I joined a sleeper. It's a redraft tournament, and it's a really cool concept. In short, it's 32 NFL franchises. And it's a 10-team league for each of the different 32 teams. But you are in a league supporting your favorite team. So like I'm in the 49ers league. Rasta from Get Right Fantasy Network, he is obviously a Niners league. We just had our draft last Saturday.
Oh, nice.
So that league's already set up. Like Mike would be in the Giants. Kendall obviously would be in the Bears. But it's a really cool league. And so basically what we're doing is there's a group of guys that are running it. They've made me an admin on the Discord server. So really appreciate those guys. But long story short, they're trying to come up with who are the best, most competitive fantasy football fans within each of those leagues. So 320 guys will be in this league, obviously 10-team leagues. But if you're interested in getting in, there are still spots left. So you can DM Bro Shove 6. So the Philly special, not the Philly special, the Tush Push. My brain went to the Philly special because Nick Foles just retired. Sorry. But Bro Shove 6, right? He is the kind of the guy that runs this whole thing. You can DM him on Sleeper. He'll send you out the URL. He'll send everything out. And yep, there you go. Thanks, Mike, for putting that up. Cool dude. Really excited to be working with him.
Yeah.
We're going to have a Discord server. We got a whole bunch of cool stuff going on. So there's still spots left. It is free. So if you're looking for one more redraft league and you want to make some new friends with folks that also support the same NFL team that you do, jump in there and obviously compete against all of us.
Yeah, we need some Giants fans. Let's go.
Yeah, they need some Giants fans for sure. So
the Giants need some Giants fans.
I was going to say the Giants need some Giants fans.
Watch it.
It's okay.
Dude, they're out there. They took a little hiatus, man.
They're all watching, they all watched Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
They're all there.
Yeah, well, and then I've driven a couple of them away. Let's be honest.
That's closer to the truth.
Yeah, I watched that Hard Knocks and I was like, ooh, Saquon Barkley. Oh, that's all right. All right. Other cool announcement. Historically, in my oldest league, as part of the league, I have always run a weekly pick'em tournament for NFL picks with confidence points. I am expanding that and I'm opening it up to my entire network. So it's a $10 buy-in. It will be run through League Safe, so no commingling funds. Everything will be nice and tidy. But if you feel like you know which team is going to win and you want to test your knowledge against the best, DM me at P Ruskin on Sleeper. I will send you the details. It will run through Yahoo so that you have the option to do it from your desktop or from your mobile app. For those that have never done a weekly pick'em, you are picking straight up winners, nothing against the spread. But the caveat is you are assigning weekly confidence points. So on Thursday Night Football, in 3 weeks, gentlemen, in 3 weeks, we have a real football game. So the Ravens will open up against the Chiefs. And let's say you just don't know who's going to win that game. You pick the Chiefs because they're at home, but you're not confident. So you assign that 1 confidence point.
Okay.
You decide the Chiefs are going to win and you're absolutely positive they're going to win. And you assign 16 confidence points. That's the highest you can assign because that's the total number of games on the slate. So if the Chiefs do win that game, you would get 16 points. I would get 1, and that's eventually how we go through and determine who the end up determining who the winner will be. So confidence points is a really cool way to do this tournament. I know the Get Right Fantasy guys, I know Kendall, the Fantasy Football Tavern, they're going to be promoting this tournament through their shows. I'm promoting it through mine. We still have a couple more weeks. So if you're interested, DM me, let me know, and we will go ahead and jump in, shoot you the link, and you can jump in that weekly pick'em tournament. So what up, boys? We got some regulars in the chat, man. I love it.
Yes, sir.
Without further ado, let's start at the top. Let's start with quarterbacks. Mike, give us your first league winner at the quarterback position.
So my first league winner is definitely not somebody that people are going to be looking into. I mean, honestly, he's somebody that is kind of boring. He's not sexy, and his name is Jared Goff. And I know what you're thinking, this is Goff. He had what, like 1 rushing yard last season? You'd be wrong. He had 21, but he had 2 rushing touchdowns. But seriously, he was QB7 last season. His ADP this season is 107, which is QB 12. So basically at the end of the 8th round that you can get him, he has the 7th easiest strength of schedule for QBs. Now, I know everyone gives him the biggest knock is usually his home and away games split. All right, let's just be really clear here. He actually was a lot closer than you thought on his home and away games. I think it was 34 wins compared to 31 wins. I mean, and all his stats were pretty relatively the same. The biggest split that he has is indoor and outdoor stats. I mean, if you really look at his passing numbers, indoors, he had 67% completion percentage. And then outdoors, 62.43% completion percentage overall. Let's just look at the schedule for Mr. Goff this year. 13 out of 17 games are going to be in a dome.
That is sweet.
13 of 17 dome games. And you have the Lions offensive line. They are ranked number 1 overall. I mean, the only big change that they have, they pretty much have the same people. Everybody's the same. They got the same offensive line, same offensive weapons coming back. Oh, and he gets Jameson Williams for a full season, who will be able to open things up for him a little bit more. Goff was also, without Jameson Williams, for most of the season, the 3rd best in passing air yards last season. He also was the 5th most in the red zone, where he passed, 2nd in passing yards overall, which, I mean, he needs to do if he's not going to rush, at all. So I see Goff. Yeah, I mean, he's a true pocket passer. I see Goff as a very good later round QB when you guys want to target everything else at the top. He's the guy I like to go everywhere.
Yeah, I like it. I'll be honest, he was very close to making my 2 names tonight. What I will say is he's not free, but he's so discounted. You're talking about a guy who should finish as a QB1. And just a caveat that I forgot to say at the top, keep in mind format does matter. Yeah. Right. So if you're looking, some of the guys we're going to talk about tonight would be phenomenal QB1s for your team that you could easily get in the 6th, 7th, 8th round in a 1 single quarterback format. In a super flex format, obviously the quarterbacks will get pushed up the board, but to get Jared Goff as your QB1, I mean, QB2 at a super flex would be amazing, but QB1, I'd still be comfortable with it. So
100%.
I love it. I love Goff. I love the Lions. I think it's going to be a great season for them. And I think the biggest thing that you have, all the things that you just said, 13 of 17 games in a dome. So no weather, no snow, no crazy nonsense. Let's go. Let's air it out.
That's why I like our good buddy that we keep, that Kendall won't trade me. Good old Jesse Bates.
Jesse Bates. Here we go. My league winner is a single quarterback format, and it's going to be the real Slim Shady himself, Mr. Joseph Burrow. ADP of 59 right now, going off the board as QB7, which equates to the 5th round. Let's recap really quickly. In 2023, he came into the season with a calf injury. We know it was the number one, most valuable player to get injured preseason. There's always one or two, right? You never want to see it, but it always happens. But he was the biggest name that came into the season carrying a major knock. And let's just call it what it was. It was an awful first 6 weeks. And people were upset because they drafted Burrow last year. He went off the board as the QB3, QB4. Mike did it. I did it. And it cost you. It cost you a playoff spot, almost guaranteed, unless you got Joe Flacco off the waiver wire, right? Like unless you had a great trade or a recovery.
I got into the fourth.
Yeah. it costed a lot of people. So after the first 6 weeks, though, when he was quote unquote healthier, right, before the wrist injury, I want to go through week 7 bye. He was then the QB4, the QB6, the QB7, and then the week 11 wrist injury. So I know a lot of people are excited about Zach Moss. I'm not excited about Zach Moss. I'm kind of like, if he's there at a good value, I'll take him. Mm-hmm. My point in bringing Zach Moss up is I do think he's not as good a football player as Joe Mixon. So regardless of what the target market share is going to be in the passing game between him and Chase Brown, who gets the early run, I don't think it's as good as Joe Mixon, meaning I think they're going to lean a lot more heavily on Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I'm not concerned about Jamar Chase right now. When the coach comes out and says it's a daily update, to me that says there's negotiation happening in the background. I do think a deal gets done before camp, and it's Jamar Chase. You're going to bet on the talent. You're going to bet on the talent of Joe Burrow. The other piece that I think people are a little bit, nervy about is Brian Callahan is now in Tennessee as the head coach. So we say, oh, Philly lost his offensive coordinator. Dan Pitcher is now the offensive coordinator. And for those who don't know that name, and I'll be honest, prior to doing my research for the show, I didn't know that name. That's the quarterback's coach. So what I like about that is there's not learning a new offense. You'd have that easy, smooth transition of somebody that knows Burrow and Burrow knows him. You added Jermaine Burton in the draft as an additional offensive weapon to replace Tyler Boyd. The offensive line is graded out as the 14th best according to PFF. And you added Amarius Mims 18th overall as your first-round draft pick. And the biggest knock on the Bengals has been he can't stay healthy because the offensive line doesn't protect him. Yep. They have the 6th easiest schedule in the league. And Jamar Chase, regardless of contract situation, is being drafted in almost every format other than crazy super flex where the quarterbacks are going. He is being drafted in the first 4 picks. So we talked a little bit about this, on many shows ago, but if you're drafting a Puka Nacua and you're drafting a Cooper Kupp at the 1-2 turn, but Stafford's being drafted in the 12th, 13th round. Yeah. Why aren't you equating success for the Rams receivers with Stafford? I'm going to make that same argument. If you're telling me that T. Higgins is going off the board in the 3rd or 4th round and Jamar Chase is going off the board in the first 5 picks, why is Joe Burrow going off the board in the middle of the 5th round? So to me, it's great value. He is a pocket passer. So it's not someone that's going to break fantasy because of the rushing stats. So obviously the rushing quarterbacks have more upside. But in a single quarterback, 6-point touchdown scoring format, give me Joe Burrow as a league winner with basically the same group that he's always run it back with. And we've seen him have a ton of success. I love Joe Burrow this year. I think it's going to be great for your teams in both formats, single and in super flex.
100%.
Kendall, let's talk about a rushing quarterback. Let's do it.
Oh, you want the rushing one?
Yeah, I want to start with the big sexy.
I wish I had 2 rushing quarterbacks and can just throw a different one. But anyone who watches the show already knows what I'm going to say. We're talking about Anthony Richardson. Which I've been a Bears fan my whole life, but I live in Indiana. I kind of live by like about 15 minutes outside of Notre Dame. Victorious actually probably lives like half an hour from me. Super cool. Shout out Victorious. But I've never been a big Colts fan. Never had a bone to pick against them. Just, you know what I mean? Bears don't hate the Colts. It's so sick to live in Indiana and be in on Anthony Richardson. It's awesome. I've never went out to go buy Colts tickets, but like this. Oh, baby, this is the year.
Maybe this year.
Yeah. I've been in on Anthony Richardson from probably as soon as the injury happened last year. I think that's when I'm going to slowly buy up as many shares as humanly possible during the next 12 months. And it starts now. And I've been on that journey ever since. I consistently take him in Dynasty above Lamar Jackson. Taking him above some other guys isn't spicy, but I think above Lamar is typically where I get smooths and odds. But let's talk about him for redraft specifically. The reason he is a league winner, I think, is the easy take. So I'll kind of spare you, right? He's got not just RB2 numbers, plus some form of a QB1 in there when you put them together, cheat code. He's got legitimate RB1 numbers. He's got you on a per game basis, 60 to 80 yards and a touchdown, you can almost just pencil it in. Plus, just give him 200 yards and 2 touchdowns plus that production, and you're going to get a top 3 quarterback that no pocket passer outside of setting records is going to touch, right? Which is the definition of a league winner. Sometimes you just objectively put up too many points to where the other team's positional advantages are cute. It's just a difference when you look at Vor. And so that's how he's a league winner. The more interesting take that I'll just kind of throw in, I think, is that he's a league winner, but he's not a value. Okay, where he goes, sleeper ADP 54, goes off the board as the QB6 in usually the mid-5th round. He never makes it ever into the 6th. If it happens that league was soft, you were going to win anyways, right? Let's be real. Yeah. In hardcore leagues, he's really not making it past probably the 5.8, 5.9. He's going to consistently go as early as the 5.2 to 5.4, usually in the 5.5, 5.6 range, right? You're passing up on some massive players there. If he doesn't finish as not just a top 5 quarterback, but realistically to win your league, you want to get 3rd place. He could be a QB5. Realistically, you need him to finish as QB2, 3 to pay off. As soon as he's not, that bet in the 5th starts to actively hurt you, where you could be drafting a different league winner. If you think your rankings are sharp, there's other league winners there I'm sure we're going to talk about. So I think it's worth mentioning he shouldn't be looked at as a value player. He's most likely a league winner. The offense has too many question marks. Where you look at Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, there's just so many things that prop up the floor with the offensive production for Hurts. That's why he's ahead of Richardson for me. The upside's there, though. He's absolutely a league winner. And gonna be fun.
100%. And just keep in mind, right, it is August 15th. We're still 3 weeks out. So the ADP that we're giving you is as of today's drafts. And you all know as well as we do, camp hype, and as the closer we get, some of these ADPs will change. I'll be honest, I'd be a little bit surprised if Richardson doesn't go in the 4th round. And in some crazy leagues, somebody really wants to reach, I could see him going in the 3rd. You know what I mean? I think it's possible that he could rise that high if someone truly has the belief like, hey, this guy can break fantasy. I have to have him. If I pass on him here, he's not coming back to me where I'm at in my draft position. So just as you start, that's why we do these shows. As you start to prepare for your drafts, understand where things are today and where they could potentially change. So with that said, Mike, back to you. Let's talk through your second quarterback league winner.
So for my second guy, I'm going with Dak Prescott. And I mean, Dak is basically a mobile Jared Goff. Let's just be very clear here. Dak put up basically close to the same numbers as Jared Goff in a lot of ways. Dak has been in the top 3 in passing yards for the last few years. He led QBs that played all 17 games in completion percentage last season with 69.5%. He led the league last year in touchdowns. With passing touchdowns with 36. I mean, yes, these two QBs are mainly pocket passers. This is on brand for me. I am almost never going to go with the Russian guy unless I see something, unless I'm getting a Josh Allen. For me, it's not going to happen. I like the pocket passer. They're a little bit more consistent with their stats because they need to have those passing yards to keep everything kind of consistent.
Yep.
And honestly, then you have to shut down. If you shut down the run game, then the passing game is wide open. You're good to go. So Dak has lived in the top 10 of fantasy QBs. He's been QB2 multiple years in a row. Well, not in a row, but he's been multiple years at QB2. Even after losing Kellen Moore, he's done very well. And his ADP is almost a joke at this point.
Yeah.
Only because he's a pocket passer after breaking his ankle. I mean, honestly, before that, he was a decent runner. And he still runs for a decent amount. He's 200 yards 251 last season. I mean, he was 5th in fantasy points per game last season, 3rd in passing yards as well. The Cowboys are also 2nd in passes in the red zone from inside the 20 to the 15 and 3rd inside goal line to the 10. So, I mean, they pass it when they get into the red zone. And the only con I'm seeing is his strength of schedule. But for that price, I mean, 74th overall, early 6th round pick. He's worth it to grab him after that, after or before that Kyler tier. He's right around that. Mm-hmm. And if you want to grab that Dak Lamb stack, that's about what I would be doing. I think a lot of us try to do that. But overall, I like him as a QB1 in most 1 QB leagues. I like him as a QB1 in even some super flex leagues. I don't mind waiting for him a little bit.
Yep.
So I'm all on
okay with
board.
that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. And I love what you just said, right? Like talking about certain guys that are pocket passers, very on brand for you. As I go to my second quarterback, it's another pocket passer, which is very not on brand for me. I am very much a rushing quarterback guy. But one of the things that I've tried to do, especially over the last couple of weeks as we get out of dynasty and best ball season and into redraft mode, is I've tried to eliminate some of my bias.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good, kind of tip for those that are listening to the show or watching the show. Like, sometimes you have to take that step back and eliminate the bias, positive or negative, of what you may think about a player. And historically, I have been off pocket passers because I don't believe the ceiling is as high as the rushers. But Dak was QB3 last year, and he is not a mobile Anthony Richardson. He is not a mobile Jalen Hurts. So I'm going to talk about Jordan Love. He is ADP 71, QB9, going off the board in the 6th round. Yep. He just got the biggest contract in NFL history. He is attached to the youngest offense in the league, but it's not the youngest offense other than just by age, because these guys have actually been playing together the last couple of years. So that's the other piece you have to remember, is even though they're the youngest in age-wise, which is more of a dynasty take, they have some chemistry, and that's what I'm looking for. In 2023, Jordan Love, I didn't know this till I saw this. I was a little bit surprised when I researched this stat. Jordan Love did not finish outside the top 24 at all the entire season. His worst finish was week 5 against the Raiders. He was QB 24. That was his worst finish on the season. He was QB 5 on the year, but in week 15 and 16, which is very important for fantasy because playoffs, he was the QB 6 in semifinal week, and he was the QB 2 in championship week. They returned their entire team. They added Josh Jacobs in the backfield. And here's something that I think everyone's excited about, because we've talked a lot about Dontavian Wicks. Is he going to be a thing? Romeo Dobbs, is he going to be a thing? We talk about is Jaden Reed going to have the ceiling we want because of the competition for targets? And I've said repeatedly, Jordan Love is the player to own simply because he touches the ball every down.
Yeah.
So you might have a bad week for Jaden Reed. You might have a bad week from Luke Musgrave and be inconsistent, but Jordan Love has the 5th highest passing attempts in the league. The offensive line, according to PFF, grades out as the 9th best. And like your stat earlier, Mike, talking about the Lions being indoors, they're playing the Lions, who we love that offense, that shootout potential. Kendall's Bears, if Caleb can dial it in, there's some potential shootouts there. And we know they're going to have shootouts with some of the other teams because we've seen it happen. So give me Jordan Love in the 6th round as a league winner. I love it. I love the Packers offense this season. And I'll be honest, I'm okay with him as my QB1 in a single format, in a single QB format. And I'm actually, just like you said about Dak, I'm okay. I might double tap quarterback in a super flex if I wait to get Love. I might go quarterback and load up at the other positions. But I'm okay with having Love as my QB1 and feeling very confident even in a super flex league as well.
100%.
Kendall, who you got as your second quarterback league winner for us?
All right, so couple guys I could choose here. For me, I wanted to go with a guy I don't think I hear most of the content creators kind of talking about for the most part, but he was an early standout for me, particularly in single quarterback. And I wanted a kind of a process one where, for me, this is more of a I like to sports bet a little bit, and this is one of those I'm kind of just trusting the long-term math. It's not a spidey senses. There's not a whole lot of fantasy thought to it. It's Tua. It's going to be Tua this year. A quarterback that I think could be a league winner outside of really having, I think for me, like having elite upside usually includes some level of elite talent, right? Add that with opportunity, you get like legendary upside levels of opportunity and production. Right. I don't think Tua has legendary, potentially even elite talent, but he is surrounded by it. No, right. No. And so similar to what we've already talked about with some of these other quarterbacks, like Stafford should definitely get thrown in as a similar archetype to what I'm mentioning here. Right. But we Tyreek is, consensus top 3 wide receiver. And that top 3, what separates them from the next tier is that super alpha elite 1,800 yard type of stuff, that, really like all time legendary stuff. Right. So he's got that at 1. And then Waddle's had a down season, but if you look at the previous two, you look at him kind of on a per game. It's weird looking at him a per game because you have to really watch the games. There were so many times he would like off to the blue medical tent back and off to the blue medical tent back in.
It was
right?
It was
like,
a rough ride
okay,
for Waddle.
how many games did he really play? You know what I mean? You should probably write off 2 to 3 extra games of like points per game when it comes to Waddle. And so when you add those 2 receivers in, right? You combine that with I'm pretty big on Devin Achane this year, and I think a lot of that's going to have to do with his projectability in the passing game. I just really do think he can have
100%.
kind of a Gibbs level, like call it what you want to on his injury risk and other things. Maybe we'll get to him later. But I think a lot of his production is going to be projectable through the air. And it's easy to find a ceiling outcome where you just take a reasonably ceiling outcome for top 3 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Waddle stays healthy, which is usually a good bet. We always talk about on our shows, right? Phil mentions it a lot, right? We always assume health because it's usually a good bet. We're not saying injury prone is a myth or anything. We're just saying generally you should assume health. It's just a good bet most of the time, right? Christian McCaffrey won a lot of leagues for just trusting the math that he's probably not made of glass. It's probably just being a running back, right?
Or playing for the Panthers.
Yeah.
Right. You throw all that in there. So
sorry,
for those reasons, Tua could be a league winner. I don't think without the mobility situation, and not even like a little bit of mobility, right? Like he could have easily run in like every quarterback and run in like 2 or 3, and he still didn't do that. Yeah. But you just give him an upside case. He threw for 4,500 and what did he throw for? 29, 34. I'd have to look it up.
I'll look it up.
Point was pretty well. I think it was 35. I'd have to check. I'm pretty sure it was 35.
It was 29.
It was 29. Okay, I think my projections had him for this year.
29 plus
4,129. Yeah, I mean that's
real quick projection. Given the same yards as last year, 46 and change. Okay, now take 6 to 8 touchdowns from Mostert and just distribute them through the air to Waddle, Tyreek, couple to the tight end, and throw 3 to Achane. All of a sudden, he's an easy QB5. At that point, and he goes nearly undrafted. He goes typically as someone's second quarterback, not QB1. If you're fully punting, I've gotten him in the very, very, very last round, by ADP, somewhere in like the 12th ish. So borderline undrafted and has easily Vegas projectable ceiling outcomes for being a top 5 quarterback. I'm going to smash that a decent percentage of the time. I have a decent amount of exposure in best ball. It's more nerve wracking because I want to go with a sexier pick in my, high dollar redraft leagues. And he's not that, but I think you should have some decent exposure.
If you're getting that in best ball though, if you've got the Tyreek or Waddle, in the first or in the second round, you almost feel like, hey, I know I can get him in the 9th or, 10th round as the bring back. But yeah, I love it. So, well, those were our quarterbacks. Obviously, we'll recap them here just for you really quickly. Starting at the top, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Anthony Richardson, Go Gators, and Tua Tagovailoa. Well, boys, let's move to the running back position. Mike, why don't you start us off with a running back that is in a new home this year, but you believe is a league winner in that new city?
Oh, I like it. So let's talk about Joe Mixon. So for me, Joe Mixon, right now his ADP is at 43, which is roughly running back 15. So a mid 3rd round pick, roughly. You have other guys like DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Alvin Kamara going around the same time as him. Some stats for Mixon just to kind of give you an idea of him from last year. He was, running back 6. He rushed for 1,000 yard, 1,000 yard plus last year. He had 4 yards per attempt, 9th in running back receptions, 9th in touchdowns, 8th in rushing yards, and he was 2nd in red zone targets last season with the Bengals. Now, to give you perspective, the Texans were 2nd to last in receptions to the running back, and also in usage in the red zone. I think they're bringing him in there for that particular reason. I believe the Texans are going to try to solve this type of problem with Mixon. Mixon was also 5th in attempts overall throughout the season. Mixon can handle the full workload. He is more than capable of doing that. Mixon is also a top 3 in attempts inside the 5-yard line, and 2nd inside the 15-yard line. All his stats for the running back that tends to fall to he tends to fall around the 4th is the latest I've seen him. I've seen him go as early as a 2nd. I think we looked at
I haven't seen that yet.
in one of the mocks that we were looking at for our mock draft tournament, he went in the second round, and I was
Oh,
like,
I must have missed that one. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I was shocked because I was like, let me do some checking to double check my ADP, the ADP currently, and I'm looking around, and he went in the second round in one of our mocks, and I'm like, holy crap, that's a little high for me.
Yeah.
I definitely don't mind him as an RB1 if you're going for a modified 0 RB type build. I mean, or anchoring him, something like that. I'm pretty good with his price at the current moment. Like I said, he's going around DJ Moore, Metcalf, and Kamara. I like Mixon a little bit more than Kamara in like half point PPR. Full point, of course, I might be aiming a little more to Kamara.
Yeah.
But I also think the offensive line for the Texans is a lot better than anything the Saints have.
Well,
So
the Saints just lost Ryan Ramczyk for the year.
well,
That's
that
big.
too.
That's a big
Yeah.
deal.
I mean, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
So for me, I like Mixon a lot more. There's not really much behind him either. I mean, Dameon Pierce definitely fell from grace. We all love that guy. I mean, it's just at this point, Joe Mixon just feels like a good fit for this offense. It's definitely going to spread things out a little bit more. Like I said, they weren't really targeting the running back last season. I think they will be this week, this year.
I'll say two things because I know Joe Mixon has been polarizing for some folks, right? There are people that have been on him. There'll be people that have been off him. The two things I'll say is the addition of Steph Diggs helps Joe Mixon. It's one more field stretcher. It's one more person for the defense to scheme for and plan. And I didn't know this till I looked this up the other day. Joe Mixon is the only running back in the NFL to finish as an RB1 the last 3 consecutive seasons. I heard that stat. Someone tweeted that out, and I was like, nah, that's my legit or bullshit. My legit or bullshit segment we do at the end. I was like, nah, that's bullshit. And I went and looked, and I was like, oh, Christian missed some games. So like it is true. So just keep that in mind. Again, you don't have to agree with every player we bring up. I'll be honest. I don't always agree with everything the boys are saying. They don't agree with everything I'm saying. That's the purpose of the show.
Oh yeah,
but this is food for thought. So
even Anthony doesn't agree with me. Wait,
Rasta, he don't know what he's talking about. That
I don't want to hear about it.
Let me jump in and give you my first running back here. I want to say, before I say the name, I want you to think if you're going to start, the way I like to build is heavy wide receiver, mobile quarterback, and generally either an anchor, hero, RB build or punt. And I think this is the perfect player that if you start with a rushing quarterback and hammer the wide receivers, you can get an RB1 in David Montgomery in the 6th round, going off the board at ADP 63 right now as the RB21. And I'm going to say it, that is disrespectful to the man's jersey who is hanging on Kendall's wall. It is disrespectful for the simple fact that I'm in on Gibbs. I love Gibbs. I have him all over Best Ball. I have him all over Dynasty. Everyone loves Gibbs. It's the reason why Monty has completely plummeted is because of Gibbs. And Gibbs finished as the RB10 last year and Monty the RB18. He missed 3 games. In the games he played, he finished as the RB25 twice. Week 18 doesn't count, obviously, because it doesn't matter for us for the playoffs unless you're one of those crazy leagues. Please don't do your championship in week 18. Please just don't do that to your league mates. So he finishes there. And in week 14, otherwise, except for those 2 weeks, week 18 and 14, he didn't finish worse, again, than an RB2 in every single other week. So you are getting a player whose built-in upside. We know Gibbs has the hamstring right now. We don't think it's going to be a big deal, but we know hamstrings linger. It can happen. We've seen it happen. Monty and Gibbs can go exist. I'm not always one to believe a ton of the camp hype and the reports, but I will say at the end of the day, it is really important to note when there is negative news, and it is important to listen to certain parts of what's going on. And the certain parts is Gibbs is lining up all over the field.
Oh, yeah.
He's lining up in the slot. He's lining up outside as a receiver. So I do think there's a world where Gibbs can line up in the slot and Monty can line up in the backfield on the same play. I think they can be used in the same red zone packages. I think they can be used in certain packages depending on where they're at down and distance-wise. So, look, in 2023, he was the RB17, or excuse me, last year, RB17, Gibbs RB10. I already gave you that stat. I'm not going to speak anything into existence, but if Monty is the RB1 for a specific reason, you cannot find that kind of value in the 6th round of a player with that type of ceiling. We mentioned it earlier with the Lions. I think having Mike, you had said it the 9th or 6th, or it was the 9th easy schedule. I had the Packers at the 6th.
But I didn't have it for the running back. Yeah. It was for the QB.
Okay. I have the Lions right now. They were the 5th highest scoring team in 2023, and they were 3rd in total yards per game from the running back position. If you punt or if you pass off running back early to get a hero RB, or you're going to go with a mobile quarterback, do yourself a favor. Grab David Montgomery as your RB2, as your RB1, if that's how you want to build. He's going to be a league winner this year. He can coexist with Gibbs. And if for any reason Gibbs isn't there, you're going to be thrilled that you have him. What you got for us, Kendall?
Yeah, I'll throw you one on Montgomery just real quick.
Yeah.
For a different situation, but very, very similar. If you were in on Mostert, okay, Montgomery is just kind of like Mostert light in his role in that offense. But honestly, with how swingy touchdowns can be,
oh yeah,
they're really the same player. And the reason I think the fantasy community was pretty consensus in on Mostert last year, kind of in on him as like a later round value with more additional risk this year, right? But we like both players for the same reason, right? So if you're like, I don't love Monty, but find yourself really liking Mostert, ask yourself, like, really compare the players. And you're like, ooh, they're oddly similar situations.
He had 13 rushing touchdowns last year. 13.
Yeah. He was incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Right.
He was a steal last season.
This is not the David Montgomery variety hour, as much as we might like it to be on our league winner show. Kendall, what you got?
Cover my whole wall, man. Well, we'll break out a couple more here.
I'm in.
All right, let's get into it. I didn't start the season in on this player. I became into them as I watched a little bit of film. As I was kind of going through there's some players where you just really have to watch. And this was absolutely one of those players I had to go see because I was a non-believer in the player type. And sometimes the eye test is just too good. I was in on Brees during his injury for like the same thing. I just looked at like, what am I really getting? I was like, no, you just have to be. And I'm ready to be wrong. I'm ready to be wrong officially on Devin HN. All right. I'm ready to be wrong. I'm there. Definition of a league winner. And it might be one of those like Christian McCaffrey, man, that's cute how good he is at fantasy. Like he could legitimately do that to McCaffrey with what he's able to do. Right. So just kind of breaking it down, like why him in particular, because ADP is coming into question. Right. I love hero RB a lot this year. I love going after Brees Bijan in the first. I don't love many running backs this year. I feel like RB 17 to like 40 is honestly like one tier of just kind of like, it's a running back for me. So I want to go hero RB as much as possible.
Yep.
If I have a pick 2, 3, 4, 5, right? I think in PPR 3 wide receiver, which is definitely becoming popular, I can't pass up like legendary predictable production from those wide receivers. So I'm just, I can't there. But what am I doing in round 2 when I start round 1, with Jamar Chase, okay, right, which is going to happen plenty. And I need to be happy about those outcomes, right? And not like force Bijan earlier than he needs to be, right? In those cases, I really like that at the 2-3 turn, when I go with one of these early high producing wide receivers, I can then still go hero RB and just take a big bet on an offense I already talked about in the Dolphins that I think are just going to be good across the board projectably in terms of touchdowns. And when I look at the player profile, sure, there's a lot of red flags. But the fact is, when you take a running back in a good offense that was hyper efficient on a per touch basis, right, as a rookie going into year 2, they almost exclusively, when you look at the player type, they always have an even better year 2. The role grows, the production grows, the efficiency, it stays good, not great, right? But it's still there. So when you combine those factors, I'm in. And I think he can do a Gibbs. He can do almost a better version of Gibbs because I think he has a next gear where he can probably house a few more and have a slightly bigger season. But he's still
7.8 yards per carry. I mean, that's what people are going to look at and they're going to go, can he replicate it? Can I take that? And I think people are going to take shots on it.
The yards per carry, no. But at the same time, why did we start falling in love? It was mostly for the quarterback. The little touch pass that was vaulting Mahomes to elite situations with how Reed was scheming up it. Like literally anybody could get this end around for a touchdown if they were within 20, right? I very much see. Look at the guy calling the plays, right? So I don't want to get into a long take on this, but he's in the perfect situation. We knew this when he got drafted, and we saw that. I don't need his opportunity to go up. I just need, because when he's on the field, it's one of those things. When he's on the field, he's getting the ball. I don't need him on the field more. I just need a few more designed plays and better designed plays. Take a few more of the rushes away. Give me some more screens. Do a lot of the Patriot stuff they used to run, where they're running all of these screens where I've seen so many 30, 40-yard touchdowns from the Patriots involving like Edelman and that type of situation. Throw a couple of those in there and just throw 10 more touchdowns at Devin HN out of nowhere. and it's not hard to do so. So
Well,
that's
and
why
again,
I see him.
if you believe the camp reports, Achan's talking about with Mike McDonald, get me more involved in the passing game, right? And we're talking most formats
That's
now
where
are at a minimum half PPR, but I think the majority of leagues are now in a full PPR format. So regardless, Mike, why don't we take the other side
little
of the
turn.
coin down there in South Beach? Should be a fun debate. Let's go with another player down in old Miami for us.
So for me, I mean, it's got to be the other side of the coin, and it's Raheem Mostert. I
Here we
mean,
go.
I can't take myself to spend that second, third round pick on a guy like HN for getting the discount with Raheem Mostert, and no one's like it. He just it's so odd to see him go in the early 6th round. I mean, he's currently ADP at 75, running back 25. I mean, he finished as the RB2 last season, people. RB2. He led the league with 17 rushing touchdowns. Of course. It's going to go down. We know that. It's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
He had 3 receiving touchdowns. We understand he's not going to be involved. He was 3rd in fantasy points per game, 17 points last season. 3rd. And he was still playing. He played 15 out of 17 games. Okay. He rushed for over 1,000 yards. He had the 6th most attempts inside the 20-yard line, 2nd most inside the 5-yard line, which is why he got his 18 touchdowns. He also outsnapped HN for except 2 games that they played together last season. He is always going to outsnap HN at this point. Yes, the Dolphins drafted Jalen Wright. Yes, they have Devon HN. But at the end of the day, Mostert is the lead dog for this team. And you are buying HN at a higher price. To me, it's not that I don't want him. I just rather pay down for Mostert. And I think Mostert is one of those guys that can be a solid RB2 for your team and hold you steady. HN is just too much of a risk, in my opinion, that it makes it hard for me to anchor my team to that type of player. But as an RB2, I'm on board. If you're going to go hero RB or robust RB in the beginning, you want to go your Bijan and then HN, enjoy. But at the end of the day, I'd rather have Mostert as my RB2 and hold steady with that.
Well, there you go. So 2 sides to the coin. So for those that are listening, I think what we're saying is you should draft one of the Dolphins running back if there's a consensus in this room. So
we could probably touch that though real quick. Like this is not one of those draft both though. This is not Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet. Let's just get that clear. I think I knew we all agreed on that though. This is I think Mike, you said it best, right? It's not that you don't love Devin HN. I don't think you love him. You might like him.
He was on my
tiny, right?
He was on my do not draft list last week.
Right. The point is you just don't like his price, right? The way you're drafting,
I hate his price.
Right?
Let's talk about this for I don't want to take it too long, but Rasta is saying, are you thinking that McDaniel will want to use all 3 running backs like San Francisco was before CMC?
No,
Mike's on a firm no there. Kendall, that was a quick answer.
Will he want to use all 3 of his running backs?
Well, let's rephrase want with do you think he will? Do you think he'll incorporate all 3?
Yes, but the levels aren't going to be. He's going to be so happy with what he's getting from the first 2 that the third will mix in, but not enough. There will be games that I think they're throwing 70 points up there where there is a lot of touches to go around, and I think when you look at the value of those touches into like the NFL script, he's going to have some fantasy blips here and there, but it's not going to be projectably.
It's going to be Mostert 60, HN 30, 10 going to right. That's my thought process about it.
I don't think this is a team. You should look at snap shares. Snap shares are the most like voodoo stat with the Dolphins. It's look at how often you're going to look at stats like anything revolving around how often they get the ball and what their efficiency is when they get the ball when they're on the field. Yeah. Because the point is you can be on the field for 10 snaps but have 10 plays thrown your way.
I like this comment. This is actually kind of where I was leaning was I think if you really, are nervous about drafting HN, and look, let's just say this about the Dolphins. All of them have their documented injury history. So I don't think it's the worst idea to grab Jalen Wright late as a handcuff if you get one or the other of HN or Mostert. What I will say quickly is this is mostly a dynasty show. We're obviously into redraft season, but I think Jalen Wright was drafted to be the complement with Achane when Mostert goes. Mostert's on a 2-year deal. This is the first of his what is now technically a new 2-year contract. Yeah. So I think Jalen Wright will have some relevance this season, but I think Achane showed so much last season that it's going to be the Mostert and Achane show. So
yeah.
All right. I'm up. I'm going to talk about a rookie. You guys know I love him. And I had to do it. So I couldn't bring myself not to do it. And here's why. The price is too damn good. Mr. Benson, Mr. Trey Benson of the Arizona Cardinals. And it hurts me as a Niners fan to say this because I really like what the Cardinals are doing. But Trey Benson at ADP 121 round RB. And this is what got me, guys. RB 41.
Yeah.
That's disrespectful. So to me, RB 41 in the 10th round. This guy has 3rd round draft capital. James Conner has never finished and played an entire NFL season. K1 is fully healthy. Kyler Murray, for those who don't know who K1 is. Yes, K1. So it's Kyler Murray. You added Marvin Harrison Jr., who is a true vertical threat. You bring back a 2nd-year tight end with Trey McBride, who's going to open up the game underneath, similar to how Mahomes and Kelsey operate. We love what we expect to see from Trey McBride this season. I really don't dislike Michael Wilson. I'm not pining for Michael Wilson in my drafts, but I think he's going to be I put it this way. I think Michael Wilson will be a better NFL player than he will be a fantasy player, which in turn helps open up the game for the running backs. So I'm going to give you, I don't have stats because he hasn't played. What I do have is he was 6.4 and 5.8 yards per carry in 2022 and 23 at a school that I will not name because of my allegiance to the Gators. Go Gators. However, it's college. So it's college. You say, oh, it's 6.4 and 5.8. Fine, no problem. But I don't want to see 2.3 yards per carry in college. I want to see numbers that jump off the page because we know the numbers will come down because you're stepping up the level. He was 9 and 14 rushing touchdowns his last 2 seasons in school. And touchdowns we know are actually a very translatable and sticky stat in the NFL. Why do I think he's a league winner? I think the Cardinals have a real potential to be a playoff team. I think they're going to be winning games.
Interesting.
James Conner hasn't played a full season. And if and when he misses time, Trey Benson has the explosiveness. He's going to get some of the goal line. He is a different type of a back than what you can run in certain packages if you're going to run quarterback with Kyler Murray. I think the addition of Marvin Harrison Jr. and the step that we expect Trey McBride to take is going to open up running lanes. Give me Trey McBride in the 10th round for free. And that's a guy that I'm really in on this year and I think is going to end up being that set. It's not going to be great the first half of the year. I know a lot of guys are excited about Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks is still going in the 6th, 7th round. He's not even going to be available until week 5 at the earliest. And then he has to start learning how to play against real NFL competition. So give me Trey Benson in the 10th round as a league winner this year. Kendall, give us your last running back before we move to the wide receiver position.
Last running back, one of Phil, I think one of your favorites in particular, but classic. I think we might all be in on this player. I'll be curious to see if it's for the same reasons. Maybe they're different. I'm going to be honest. I'll just throw it out there. I think this is a little bit more of one of my favorite values, but this player in particular, I think fits both sides of the coin when I looked at it for this segment, when I was talking about, wow, they're a really just good value on the board.
Oh, yeah.
But when I did some, just some messing around with projections, I never got to like a top 3 RB finish, but I got to a lot of like RB 5, 6, 7s, which I honestly didn't think I would get to as often. And the running back in question here is James Cook, coming off from the Buffalo Bills, sleeper ADP of 42, running back 14. Which is weird because it was the RB12
Love James Cook
last year. Yeah, I'll come back to that. You can get him in this is what's interesting. His ADP says he goes in the mid 4th.
Yeah.
I think there's kind of a couple of tiers of running backs here. And it's like when this tier of Pacheco and Cook, this range, sometimes people wait an extra 6-7 picks for that tier to start. So it's like, where does that range go? So it moves around a little bit. I think it's a simple narrative here. The Bills had a good offense, and Cook was very good in that good offense towards the end of the year. From a game plan perspective, they went a little more run heavy. They went away from Diggs. I think they weren't playing amazing football, and they wanted to do something. So their solution to fixing their offense was we need to be more balanced. We need to run the ball. So we're going to trust a player more. We've leaned on him a little bit throughout the year, but we've really leaned on Josh Allen. When it was we need to save our season, it was, guys, it's time to bite the bullet, do what the Chiefs are doing with Pacheco, and really lean in on our running game to allow
100%.
our quarterback's magic to actually be a little more effective and not just easily schemed out of the game and borderline too risky. So when a team like that gives that much trust in that player, that's a big deal in the way I think they see him going into this season, right? So when I'm combining that take with that, there's all these vacated targets. Right. So I think his sneaky upside is that he had what 49 targets, 49 targets for 39 catches last year.
Yeah,
which is quite good.
Very efficient.
I don't think anyone can complain about that. Yeah, insane catch rate, right? There's so many vacated targets. Kincaid is still, he's still a newer player, right? The tight end is a longer position to learn. It's hard to get truly elite snap share and usage. I think he'll be good this year. Keon Coleman, very good, also a rookie. During the first 6 to 8 games of the season, during kind of the rookie warm-up period where we probably expect Coleman's going to be a second half of the year player, not a first half. He'll be involved. He'll be great. I think we all like Keon Coleman quite a bit, but I think the offense is going to have to fundamentally change a little bit. And I think it's going to run through and with Cooks a lot. I don't think it's going to run through him because he's not 200 pounds. He just don't run any offense, but he's going to be such a good piece in it. You project him for, I think I have him down for 65, 66 catches. You give him 50 catches and add another touchdown or two to that. All of a sudden he's like a locked top 10 running back.
I have him down for 75 targets.
Yeah.
75 targets.
So if you have him down for 75 targets in full PPR, hard to imagine he's not a top 8 running back for you.
And that's
being honest. He probably starts eclipsing ETN at that point with those levels of efficiency, and he's honestly not far off of that Gibbs tier when you project his catches that way. And I think you can look at him and Gibbs as very similar players. Although one's going to have a much higher snap share on.
Yeah, because he has no one else, and Ray Davis isn't ready yet.
No, and look, I think that's the one thing I was just going to say to put a bow on this one is James Cook has scored 4 rushing touchdowns his whole career. If he can score 4 rushing touchdowns just this season, he was already RB12 just on volume alone with only 2 rushing touchdowns last year. So give the guy 4 to 6 touchdowns.
If Swift can put in 5 behind Jalen Hurts, he can put in 5 behind Josh.
100%.
Yeah. I want to get to these 2 questions here because
I was going to bring up the questions.
I've got a couple guys here also. We're seeing some new names in the chat. So really quickly, guys, if you're not subscribed, jump on the channel. We're almost to 100 subscriptions. It helps us out. Jump on the Fantasy Football Tavern. That one helps out Kendall, and obviously Get Right Fantasy Network, our parent, our overarching umbrella of everything that we do. But let's not spend a ton of time on these because we still got some wide receivers and tight ends to get to. But
I like this question.
I like this too because it's not a lot of people in a non-PPR. So in a standard league, should I pick 2 running backs in my first 2 picks? Kendall, let's start with you really quickly, just in 30 seconds. Thoughts on this? And if the answer is yes, maybe give us the 2 running backs that you're targeting.
15-second take. If you are close to the turn, 10, 11, or 12, the answer is yes, and you're already considering it in half PPR. With the way the board falls, you're looking at a range of players that includes Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, and Jahmyr Gibbs, and you should take them above the next tier of wide receiver. You include the format into there, you're absolutely smashing 2 of those 3 anywhere near that turn, if and at all humanly possible. If you are drafting an earlier pick, I think you have to split it. The wide receivers are still that good, but it's not. It's about being boxed out of a tier at running back. So I would absolutely push Bijan and those guys up to probably the 4 or 5 spot.
Mike, anything different to add or?
No, that's exactly how I view it. I mean, if you're going to be drafting early, definitely kind of spread it out. Go running back then wide receiver. I'm a little heavier in the first round for running back at any position, at any point for those particular non PPR. But like you said, end of the round, you're definitely wanting to tap 2, or you can grab guys like who I just mentioned with Raheem Mostert. I mean, he'll have regression, but he's still going to be used in the red zone. So for me, I like grabbing guys later.
I will just I'll just add this really quickly. I don't play in any standard leagues, but I have a really good buddy, one of my best friends who does, and he calls me every single draft season. Who should I draft? Who should I draft? So I almost kind of do the draft with him. In a standard format, you're looking at total touchdowns because there's no PPR, there's no half PPR. So I think if you're looking at, the running back here, George, to answer your question, I love the names Kendall threw out. If you're on the other side of the board at the 1, 2, 3 positions, I don't hate taking Derrick Henry at the 2-3 turn because of the touchdown upside in a standard format. So I know he's going to be on that board on the other side at the early part of the draft. So Z Money, good question here. Most underrated running back and wide receiver this season in fantasy. Mike, why don't you take the running back, and Kendall, why don't you take the wide receiver?
Ooh, most underrated running back. I think the most underrated running back that I have in a lot of ways, and is somebody that I tend to grab a lot, and it's Rashad White. I like him a lot. He's going undervalued a lot because everyone keeps talking up, Bucky Irving, and rightfully so. And they did lose, an OC, and they're kind of changing up their offense a little bit, but overall, the offensive mind that came over, from 2022. I mean, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about the Bucks in a little bit, but Rashad White is a good part of that particular offense. I mean, he held it for 272, attempts last season, just under 1,000 yards. But he was heavily used in the passing game, which is where Bucky is supposed to be. So for me, I like him a lot this year, even though, a lot of people have him a little, undervalued.
Kendall, a receiver that you think is maybe a little underrated or someone that you're targeting late?
You threw me off with someone I'm targeting.
Well, that's fine. Just who's underrated? Who's underrated?
Easily, it's Cooper Kupp for me this year. He had the best wide receiver season of all time. He's absolutely elite. He has special chemistry with his quarterback. And when you assume health, there's no reason to think he still can't be, maybe not the best wide receiver season ever, but a top 5 wide receiver. And he's going outside the top 12 by a decent margin. Massively underrated.
Yeah, I love that name. I'm not going to add to that. I think for me, that's perfect. Let's jump in, guys. I know that we're getting a little long, but I'm only going to go with one of my receivers. But Mike, why don't you start us off with one of yours, league winner, and who do you like?
So for one of my league winner guys that I mean, I've been talking him up for the last few years. He's on a new team now, which I'm kind of happy about, but sad of where he went. But I'm hopeful of where he is going, and that's Deontay Johnson. I know I'm beating the same drum from last year. His ADP is currently at 87. Wide receiver 38. He's an early 7th round pick at this point. He's going. I know he's going to a crowded wide receiver room, but if you look at the wide receiver room, it's Adam Thielen, 33. Jonathan Mingo, a newer wide receiver. Xavier Legette, same kind of thing. He just got drafted this year. Yes, a 1st round pick, but he's young. Terrence Marshall still there, even though he's
Who?
Terrence Marshall. I said yeah.
Who?
I thought I got his name wrong for a minute.
No, you got it right. But Terrence Marshall, I was like, I forgot.
I love Terrence Marshall.
Anytime I can throw shade on Terrence Marshall, I will.
Anyway, so Deontay, he was, to give some stats and why he's a little bit underrated at this point and why he's falling in ADP. Well, he's gone down in ADP. He's wide receiver 43 last season with Kenny Pickett. He was wide receiver 38 with 9.8 points per game, fantasy points per game. Guess who else was around that last year? Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, Drake London, all these guys that are a lot higher in ADP at this point. Carolina is also, they have probably one of the best strength of schedules versus the wide receiver this season. He's definitely taking over the number 1 role over Adam Thielen. And we saw what happened last year with Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen was the lead wide receiver in this room. And so let's just, I'll give Adam Thielen stats because they're going to need to spread it out. 137 targets went to Adam Thielen last season. That needs to be redistributed. They also lost 66 vacated targets to DJ Chark leaving. So right now, that's a lot of targets to kind of divvy up. I see a lot of that going to Deontay Johnson. They also have a young Dan Canales. He's going to be working as a QB coach. He works with in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So they're
Gino.
hoping, worked with Gino to give him his best season ever. I mean, honestly, they're going to do whatever they can to fix Bryce because they need to. And at this point, Deontay could unlock that for them. Deontay is a solid wide receiver. He's able to get open. He has a lot of separation. He's probably one of the most underrated route runners in the game. Honestly, if he should be in the list of top 5. Right now, he has a mild groin strain, so his ADP might go down a little bit more, which is even better because I can get him at a value. He's going around the Hollywood Brown, Rashid Rice, Devin Singletary, Javonte Williams type, players that you can grab him at, and he's going to be leading this team in targets. I think he's going to be an excellent choice and could win you leagues this year.
I know that there are a lot of, ESPN and Yahoo articles, the biggest names in the business, and they are all picking Deontay Johnson as, as a breakout candidate. It's weird to say for like a player that's been in the league for this long as a breakout, but a lot of people in on Deontay Johnson. So I'm going to give you
article.
You might, yeah.
No, I didn't. I didn't even look at it.
No. I'm going to give you a receiver here that has been a wide receiver 1 in his career, is being drafted at ADP 46 as the overall wide receiver 21 at the 4-5 turn. I am still getting my rankings done for our website, so I've been going through those. I did a bunch of them today. I have him as the wide receiver 17 in my rankings, so not a huge disparity, but I do have him higher than where he is currently going. He has been a wide receiver 1 in this offense with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown present, so we are talking about none other than Mr. Devonta Smith. Kellen Moore is a new offensive coordinator, and he had a 63% pass rate over expectation in Los Angeles last year with the Chargers, and 59% when he was in Dallas. Devonta Smith earned 112 targets in 2023. For context, Drake London got 109, DK 119, Zay Flowers 108, and George Pickens 106. And those are all wide receiver 1s for their own teams, and 2 of those players are being drafted, London and DK, ahead of Devonta Smith. No competition arrived via the draft. Dallas Goedert. Barkley, I believe, is actually going to hurt Jalen Hurts' rushing touchdowns because I do think Travis Kelce, wrong brother, Jason Kelce retired. So I still think they're going to do the tush push, the bro shove. I think it's going to happen. How effective is it? We're going to find out real quick. Jalen Hurts is still going to score rushing touchdowns. Don't hear what I'm not saying. Don't, put words into my mouth. But at the end of the day, some of that is going to go to Barkley. I don't necessarily think that the addition of Barkley does anything except help A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. And the same case that you can make for anything, I say 1,000 times, we always presume health. If A.J. Brown is not available, I'm totally comfortable with Devonta Smith, and that's where he becomes a true, obvious league winner. I think he's still a league winner no matter what. He's on a contract with a quarterback who's on a contract in an offense that we love, in a division they should win because Dallas is all out. They ain't all in.
Yeah.
And at the end of it all, give me Devonta Smith at the 4-5 turn as potentially, the way I like to build, as my wide receiver 3.
Wow.
And I love it. I'm into it.
Yeah, Anthony's agreeing with you there too.
Oh wait, shocker! Rasta and I agree on something. What a tremendous shock! But I didn't see his comment earlier, but I appreciate you bringing that up because I mean that's Devonta Smith.
He was huge on him. I'm a little bit less on it, you're kind of swaying me a little bit now.
You gotta get some stats in there, buddy. Cooper Kupp. Oh, sorry, Kendall. I meant to say Kendall, and I just ruined it. I'm sorry, man.
Well, thankfully,
I was looking at the show.
Well, we already kind of mentioned him.
Thankfully,
before.
yeah. I already mentioned. The chat asks good questions, and we can just get them out there. So I'll just throw one out because Cooper Kupp was my favorite, but also most underrated. This year, Calvin Ridley is going to be a league winner at wide receiver. So he's going off the board 79 on Sleeper. He's going as the wide receiver 34, coming off the board in the late 7th. Now, based on when his ADP is taken, given the recent injury news to D-Hop, I think his ADP is clearly already starting to rise. I think the best ball, it was already up like 3 or 4 spots. So that will continue to rise. Probably going to stay in the 7th. Maybe he'll peak a little bit into the 6th. But the narrative here, again, it's pretty simple. It's a condensed offense that should run through 2 wide receivers. One of those being, an aging veteran that's at a very particular age cliff. that statistically is relevant. 31 plus is the death knell for even the most legendary of wide receivers. You can name pretty much all of them that played pretty late, and this is when the wheels fully came off. The QB is inconsistent. Improved O-line, we can go into that kind of a stuff. But the one thing that Levis is known for that he does well is the deep ball,
deep shots,
right? Yep. And Ridley's a very savvy route runner. I don't think Ridley is not necessarily known as a deep threat. I think he's an extremely crispy, savvy route runner. But that doesn't mean they can get some crossing routes. There's another very savvy route runner running routes with him. And so their ability to do stuff together in combination, I think, and really communicate well in the field, I think it's going to work in his favor. So if I have to have inconsistent production at quarterback, I at least want the good stuff to be worth it, right? And this is why Mike Evans has always been statistically a little bit aberrant, but he's got high touchdowns because he is a red zone threat, and he's a good, he just gets the deep shots. He gets the deep shots because he can win at the deep ball, right? But the point is deep shots equal fantasy points, and Ridley should get a fair amount of those. They should be able to move the chains a little bit better with two running backs that I don't know how good the offense is going to be, but I think those running backs are going to make them a pretty good NFL running back room versus a fantasy room. It'll be disproportionately good on the NFL side. You've got two running backs that at their peaks, when they're not being workhorses, they're extremely efficient. So with two extremely efficient running backs that always have the threat of being a dump off, I think that's going to add some comfortability to Levis's game, having consistent checkdowns on all downs. And the threat of he's not going to be in long down situations. If they're both averaging 5 yards a carry, he's going to be looking at 2nd and 5 a lot. And as a quarterback who's young, taking those nerves off and also putting the defense 2nd and 5 is putting them very much at the back foot. Things aren't looking good. You're behind in the count. The ability to do some play action and damage them and get a little crazy. Well, they're not playing for a Super Bowl this season, so why not do some crazy deep shot stuff? Get Levis a few free touchdowns. Why not? I see those outcomes happening, and I think when you can draft the wide receiver 34, one of the cheapest wide receiver ones in fantasy on an offense that everyone is projecting to be terrible, all you need is a few surprises to go its way, and those all point at, if anything goes right, it should be for Calvin Ridley. It should be with some deep balls and some touchdown upside and some big games. And at wide receiver 34, it's a smash value, but it could be a league winner. If he ends up being a top 16 wide receiver, 20 above ADP, how are you not converting?
And I think that's the key here. And I want to just kind of say this really quickly before we transition here to the tight end position. It's pretty easy to go out and say that Christian McCaffrey and Jamar Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown are league winners. No kidding. Everybody knows that. What we're trying to give everybody is players that you can get at a value, players that you can get later than the top 30 to 36 players, depending on your league size, that have a realistic chance to finish at the running back 2, wide receiver 2 at their position, and obviously have great upside, or we see a path to high touchdowns, high targets, right, to conversions like you were just talking about. So that's really what this show is about, right? I mean, anyone can go out and play with the Patrick Mahomes is a league winner. No shit. Of course he is, right? But it's Patrick Mahomes. So I think, to me, we're trying to find guys that can I get them in the middle rounds that can ultimately, at my wide receiver 3 position, at my flex position, are realistically finishing at my wide receiver. My running back 2 could easily be starting in those positions for me, especially second half of the season as we get into making the playoff push. So
100%.
Let's dive in on tight end, Mike. And why don't you start with one of your tight ends for winners?
We got to pick our words a little bit better for tight end groups. Dive right into tight ends. So Rafi,
I didn't even catch my Freudian slip.
Oh, you're good. So Romeo Dobbs, he was in consideration for me as well. So I am on board with Romeo. Yeah, right. That was
it went for a while, man. I had to catch back. I didn't
hear it as I said it out. Let's talk about some
tight ends. Yeah.
The other wide receiver, right?
The other wide receivers. So first I'm going to talk about a guy that honestly, weirdly, this is weird for me because for the last 3 seasons, I have pretty much talked him down. I've been the guy that hates this guy. I've been saying it over and over again for the last 3 years he's been in the league, and that's Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, for me, the last 3 years, I have hated. And you know why? It was because of his ADP. Honestly, that's why I hated him. I hated him because of the concept that he consistently over and over again was being drafted as the tight end 2, 3, and couldn't return with guys like Mariota and Ritter. Like everyone thought, oh my God, he's going to be, Delaney Walker. No,
Right.
that's not the same Mariota.
Right.
That's not we are not at this point. Ritter was not the guy either. He did that with Matt Ryan. His first season, he was a tight end 3. Tight end 5. So, and he only tied Evan Ingram for that rookie, season. So I was very low on Kyle Pitts the last few seasons. This year, I am changing my whole thing. And you know why? He's tight end 7. He is ADP 63, mid 5th round. I have no problem spending a 5th round pick on him.
Yep.
On top of that, I have to read through all my notes because I already kind of went through that. So let's look at Kirk Cousins for the last few seasons. Last year, he had TJ Hawkinson, another 1st round tight end, mind you. So him and Kyle Pitts, I mean, they're close enough in what they do. He was the tight end 2 in 2022. So 2 years ago, he was tight end 22 and tight end 4 in 2023. And that was with Kirk only playing 8 games, mind you. So Kirk can pass for over 4,000 yards in his 7 seasons that he's been around. He's never had a problem with supporting multiple receivers. He now has offensive weapons with Drake London and Bijan. They're going to give him plenty of targets, 129 that he had that season. I'm projecting him to be over 1,000 yards 1,000 yards receiving, and hopefully more than 90 receptions and roughly around 7 touchdowns. That's about where I see him. I can see Pitts returning more than that on his ADP, to be quite honest with you. I can see him finishing as a top 3 to top 5. I definitely can see it this year.
Yep. And before I jump into one of mine here, I just want to bring this question up because this is someone that almost made.
I was going to say yes.
He almost made my list, and the answer is yes. And I'll tell you 100%. Why. Is Pat Freiermuth a sneaky buy this year? There's 2 reasons I say yes. Number one, as of today, Brandon Ayuk, I don't even know what Brandon Ayuk's doing.
Going.
I don't think he's going. It doesn't look that way, right? So there's no one besides George Pickens there. And 2, Arthur Smith, he likes the tight end. You know what I mean? Arthur Smith's a weird dude. He's for sure a weird dude. But yes, I like
wait. Muth or Darrell Washington?
Darnell Washington? He's a blocker. Give me Pat Freiermuth.
He's a lineman, I think.
Exactly.
I'm kidding. Relax.
So my first league winner is ADP 82. Nice. Why did I copy and pasted the wrong thing? He is a tight end 10. Let me rephrase that in my own notes. Going at the 6-7 turn, but he is the de facto wide receiver 2 for his own team.
Do you guys have like I want to know if the chat has like an ability to look at our sheet?
Yeah, they're looking at the sheet for sure because there it is. It's 100% Ferg, right? It's absolutely Jake Ferguson. He got 102 targets last year. He turned that into 761 and 5, which finished as the tight end 9. He's going off the board as the tight end 10. Brandon Cooks earned 81 targets. He turned that into 657 and 8. And if you saw the news today, Brandon Cooks was taken off on a cart. I don't believe in Brandon Cooks if he's healthy. He wasn't able to get it done last year in this offense. And so for context, David Njoku, who was a league winner last year, got 123 targets for 882 and 6, which was statistically his best receiving yardage of his entire career. So if you're telling me that in an offense where I don't believe in Brandon Cooks, we only believe in CeeDee Lamb, we have an absolutely disgusting running back by committee. I know some people are in on Zeke, but my point is that it's not a Christian McCaffrey. It's not a Bijan. It's not someone sexy. You've got a running back by committee. And can Jake Ferguson get another 150 yards and one more touchdown to put him into that top 5, top 6? I think the answer is yes. Give me Jake Ferguson at the 6-7 turn as my tight end 1. And I am always on brand for me. Historically, I am a very late tight end drafter.
Yep.
I might shift in some of my redraft leagues. I might shift and try to go get one of those top 2 or 3 guys this season. The guy I'm going to talk about as my second one is certainly one I'm targeting. But if I miss out on those guys, I'm making sure that I leave my draft with Jake Ferguson so that I go to bed at night saying I've got great wide receivers, great running backs, and I feel solid about a guy that I know can make that leap and is a sneaky player to finish as a top 5 tight end this season. Give me Jake Ferguson.
Oh, 110%. Ferguson is probably one of my favorite tight ends to draft and probably one of my highest owned in best ball in one way or another. Because
I've got a big exposure in best ball as well. Yep.
He falls to that perfect tier where I don't want anybody else but him.
Yep.
And he's just perfect. And
right, you guys are both like massive Ferg fans. I'm in on it. I got to ask you. I got to do a little game with you right here.
Let's do it.
He is the tight end. What if CD goes down?
Ooh.
I mean,
what just happened in your head was a magical version of holy shit, and then you had to figure out how far away from Travis Kelce he was.
Well, then I had to figure out what they're going to do at wide receiver, and the only thing they have is Jalen Tolbert. I mean, you can't not, and then they're gonna probably run a lot of 12 personnel with I can never remember the other tight end's name.
Schoonmaker.
There we go. I mean, they're gonna have to run 2 tight end sets with him, and then they're gonna have to find a wide receiver somewhere. So I mean, I know a lot of the offense is based on CD. So
I want to say that it puts him to the moon, but then again, it's like if you don't have any vertical threat, if you don't have a real receiver to cover. Like that's the only downside, right?
No,
like,
I get you.
Where I'm like, because as soon as you said it, I was like, oh, tight end three, instantly. But I was like,
no, I went 5.
Hold on,
five's my limit for him. I don't see him being a little higher than that. It's just I just don't see it happening.
Yeah,
I'm just throwing it out there. I think it's worth an exercise.
At some point, they go.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, I put it up. I had
Marvin Harrison Sr. They're calling Deion Sanders to stop coaching college football and come back. And
dude, it'll be an episode of Bar Rescue at that point. All the retired guys that went on to do like a B- TV show or whatever.
You know what happens if CD Lamb goes? You know what happens if CD Lamb goes down?
Oh, the world ends.
The Cowboys tank the season and go draft Travis Hunter.
Ew.
That's what happens. All right. Anyway, let's move on. Kendall, give us a tight end that you're in on.
I'm just going to go with one for the sake of time. I'm going to give one that I think this one's probably the easiest one. My other one, I think I got to go into some longer takes on why it makes some sense. But Dalton Schultz is actually who I'm going to go with. Okay. This is another one similar to Tua, where you guys have heard all the spicy tight ends already. You've heard all the high end takes. I want to give you one that I think less people are talking about for a reason. I think less people are talking about, and that is sleeper ADP 117 on Dalton Schultz goes off the board as the tight end 14. So in your most common of formats, he's basically going undrafted. He's going in the late 12th. So he's in like he's most of the time going off the board, but it's a backup tight end in several builds, or he's the full punt of the guy he's one of maybe 3 tight ends who goes off the board in the actual last round effectively as that level of tight end. So Houston, his quarterback actually takes a step into that full Mahomes territory, into 36 plus, perennial touchdowns. Okay. Give him a full Mahomes breakout, give him 38 touchdowns. Okay. Give him 4,800 yards, 38. Yeah. Maybe Mixon gets hurt a little bit or something and it has to go. The touchdowns are just heavy passing. Okay. It's not hard to just go ahead and give the tight end got a lot of touchdowns. That happens in good offenses all the time, and it's not hard to give him 10 touchdowns. It's honestly not that difficult to give Dalton Kincaid 8 to 10 touchdowns and then just decent stats across the board.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, he'll have a decent season and do above average on tight ends with a quarterback that we see as the next Mahomes. Look at the dynasty rankings. Yep. That's just one way. It goes off he reminds me of he could have a Mark Andrews like season, lower on yards, but Andrews was touchdown heavy, a little bit lower in catches. I could see him having a lighter version of that, easily being like tight end 3 out of absolutely nowhere, because that offense could be electric. Now, the same example I just gave you for Ferguson and why I think that's a really valuable process when evaluating the tight ends is how the offensive makeup kind of works in case of these corner case situations. In 9 non-tight end premium leagues, you're really looking for just scenarios where good things can happen for your tight end, because projectably it's a weird position and it gets a little bit weird, and you have to find things that can just smash for you that aren't typical or add to the typical narratives. And one of them is Tank's tiny, Diggs is old, and Nico's never really had a good season outside of last year. Forget the production.
Yep.
between
of your
Tiny,
slander.
Tiny Tank and old Diggs, what if just one of them goes down?
Right.
Are you going to project Stroud
Right.
to have a
Well, then
shit
there's
season?
Xavier Hutchinson right
Or are you
behind.
going to say Stroud's really good? The offense is still going to be great, and all of a sudden you just have a bunch of targets that go
What about
Schultz's
John
way.
Mechie?
They have. I like all these guys, and I think they're going to get
John Mechie,
involved.
Xavier Hutchinson. Come on.
Okay,
Come
right,
on.
but look at it from a snap share standpoint.
No,
Okay,
I get it.
the
I'm
tight
just
end doesn't really
fucking up.
leave the field, and they're going to have
Yeah.
so many like spread
100%.
attacks where they're just always going to have
Yep.
Schultz in because he opens up their running
Yep.
game as well. Point is, Schultz is definitely, I think he's being drafted where he should. But the point is, if I'm going to punt on a tight end, I want a tight
he's
end
the one I'm going with.
that has elite upside, and that sometimes doesn't happen. I was looking at some tight ends, and I'm like, no, it's just not elite upside. They could finish as the tight end 5 or 6, and I'm like, this is one of the latest tight ends that can actually finish top 3.
Nice. Yeah, Noah Brown. I forgot about
I
him
know.
too.
I was gonna jump in here really quickly, guys. I'm gonna throw my link again in the channel. I see some new names in here. If you're not subscribed, jump in and subscribe to the channel here. There's the link. If you're not subscribed to the Fantasy Football Tavern, Kendall giving the hot takes and cold drinks, and of course, if you're not subscribed to Get Right Fantasy Network, which I'm sure you are, jump in and do that as well. Lots of good chat going on here. Mike, 2 minutes. Because I know last week we did a couple games. We're going to play some games this week, and I know the chat loved it. I know that's what people are probably still hanging around and waiting for. So 2 minutes on yours, and then I'm going to bang through mine in 30 seconds with just bullet point stats because I know everyone wants to hear my guy. But here we go. 2 minutes. Who you got?
So my guy is somebody that I've been beating the drum for the last, I can't tell you how long. He was a former Giant who is one of my favorite tight ends. I got to meet him years ago, and he's still one of my favorite. It's Evan Ingram. I mean, his ADP is 71, tight end 8, which is the end of the 5th, which is absolutely ridiculous. For me, I have him. He finished last season as tight end 2 in half PPR. He was 3rd in receiving yards, 1st in targets with 143, around the same amount of targets as Olave and Jamar Chase. Okay. He outcaught Keenan Allen, AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs, and Puka Nacua, which was the wide receiver. He was the fifth highest for wide receivers.
Yep.
He's another one. Another stat: 167 targets for the tight end. I mean, he was 3rd in yards after contact when he was, and then he also had 23% of the team's target share. He's insane that he's at this ADP. He's the only bad stat that he has is 4 touchdowns, and that's only going to go up. The Jags offense this season let go of guys like Ridley, Zay Jones. They traded for Gabe Davis and they drafted Brian Thomas. Christian Kirk is hurting is right now hurt and nursing an injury with a mild calf strain. I mean, I see Ingram having a similar season as last year, and he has the ability to finish probably in the top 3 or 5, like I just said with Kyle Pitts. For me, a bold take would be he could probably finish the year as the tight end 1.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So there you go, Evan Ingram. I am going to jump in and bullet point this. ADP of 50 going off the board as the tight end 5 at the 4-5 turn. We've given these stats, but it is time to really hammer them home. 44% target market share has been vacated by none other than Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. So, of course, we are talking about Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
That 44% equated to 314 total targets. We've highlighted James Cook as a league winner at the running back position. Last year, Dalton Kincaid earned 91 targets as a rookie. He turned that into 673 and 2. James Cook has 4 rushing touchdowns his entire career. Josh Allen is the goal line back. If they're passing it, Stephon Diggs is no longer there. Yeah. You either like or you hate Keon Coleman. If you hate Keon Coleman, you have to be in on Dalton Kincaid because that's where the ball is going if they throw it around the goal line. For context, Sam Laporta last year was the tight end 1 because he had 10 receiving touchdowns. Everyone else was the next closest, was at 6. Give me Dalton Kincaid to go over 750 yards and 6 touchdowns and an outside shot as my tight end 3.
Nice.
All right, boys. We're going to do a higher or lower segment before we get into legit or bullshit.
Well, do you want to answer this question?
Oh, sorry. I didn't see the question. Where are we?
No, it's okay. So there were 2 questions in the chat that I thought were good questions. We kind of went over A-Chain, and it came in a little late, but it's okay. How do you feel about A-Chain and Bowers this year? Now, he he went and caveated it with, is Achane going to be good enough to get 50 to 60% of the snaps? Kendall, I think you believe yes.
He's good enough. He won't earn it though. He
Agreed.
doesn't need to. The way that offense works is the touches are very specifically manufactured, right? They're not doing what they did with Tank Dell. Guess what? He's tiny. When he's not needed, he's nowhere near the field, right? He's protected. So I don't think he will ever really should. 55 maybe, but I look at it as he's like a 45% snap share guy almost by design. And I think that even could go lower and keep his effectiveness where it's at. So I think snap share is not a thing to look at. Total opportunities will go up for him.
And remember this, Achane can do in 19 touches what a regular running back does in 30. So from an efficiency standpoint, he's going to kill that metric. What I will also remind people of, and it's hard for me, Mike, it kind of strengthens your argument just a tiny bit from earlier.
Yeah.
Raheem Mostert's still the starter, guys.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the problem. Everyone's got Devon Achane going off the board in the second round and best ball in redraft right now. Maybe if you're lucky, you can get him on the turn at the second 2-3 turn, but it's pretty much a second round ADP. He's still the RB2, technically RB1B, whatever you want to call it, on his own team. Now, I think he can get there. I think he can volume there. I think he's going to be fine, but he's still not the starter. So just keep that in mind if you're looking at, again, like Mike said earlier, could I get kind of a cheaper Dolphins running back with Raheem Mostert? Or do I want the extreme upside? So, yeah.
Now, quick answer. Will Bowers be the 24 or the 2024 Laporta / Kincaid this year?
Not with that quarterback room. That's my answer.
I see a no from Kendall. It's a quick no for me.
Yeah,
I don't see it happening.
Not with that quarterback room.
No.
All right, boys. You ready? Higher or lower tight end edition tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
In 2023, only George Kittle had more than 1,000 receiving yards.
Wow.
In 2024, over under 1.5 tight ends will have over 1,000 receiving yards. You taking the over? You taking the under?
So 1.5 for over 1,000.
So 2. You have to bet. You have to
At
bet
least 2.
2 would have to do it. And if you're in the chat, jump in and answer these questions. This is the best part of the show, is this over-under segment, and then obviously we get into legit bullshit, which is kind of quick rapid fire. Rafi Bomb taking the under here.
I'm going the over.
Okay, so you think 2 guys will hit 1,000. Kendall?
Over.
Okay. Kyle Pitts has 6 total career touchdowns. He has scored 1, 2, and 3 touchdowns in each of his first 3 seasons consecutively. Kyle Pitts will have over-under 4.5 touchdowns in 2024.
Over.
Yeah, he was a league winner for you, so he has to be.
All
right, Kendall,
I'll stick with it.
You got to stick. You got to put your flag. You planted your flag.
I'll put my flag on it.
Yeah.
I've been planting my flag on him all season. We're good.
Wow, that's a perfect number.
Nice.
I got him at 4. So I gotta go under.
You're gonna take the under. Okay, we've got some. We're splitting the chat we're splitting the chat here as well. We've got some overs and unders. Okay, Dallas Goedert has never caught more than 60 passes in a single season.
Wow.
In 2024, Goedert will have over under 59.5 receptions.
59.
60. That's his number.
Yeah. I got your line, but I just want to make sure you said 59.
Yep. 59.5.
Oh my God. I want to go under.
I'm a pretty solid under. I got him projected.
I know
chat agrees with you right now. We got 3 in the chat saying
actually
under.
I'm gonna change mine to over, because I keep forgetting that Kellen Moore's there, and Kellen Moore likes to target the tight end.
And we got Josiah Evans in here saying 90. Kellen loves the tight end. He'll take that over. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll take the over. It was 90 to I think Gerald Everett even at the Chargers. So I'm gonna go over.
2 more, and then we move into the 2-minute drill, legit or bullshit. In 2023, David Njoku had 882 receiving yards. His previous career high was 639. David Njoku will have over under 650.5 receiving yards in 2024.
Over.
Joe Flacco, the quarterback.
Over. Well, it's technically Deshaun Watson, even though you may not want to admit that.
I'm still going to go the over. Okay. It's a very Horrible bet. I'm not using that in a parlay.
Yep. Chat says under. Rafi Bomb saying over. So we're split in the chat there as well. All right, last one.
Yeah.
In full PPR, Jake Ferguson has only scored over 15 fantasy points in a single game twice in his career.
Okay.
In 2024, Jake Ferguson will go over 15 PPR points in 2.5 games.
Man, say it. I need one more time.
Jake Ferguson, 15 fantasy points twice in his career. He's got a lot of 12s, 13s, and 14s, right?
I own
I'm
so
gonna
much.
go
I know those
over.
exact games.
Yep. In 2024, he is going to go over 15 points 2.5 times.
2.5.
So it would have to be 4 or 3 or 4.
It'd
Yeah,
have
I'm
to
going to
be 3.
go over.
This is a pretty overwhelming over from the chat.
Does he get there in the yards enough? Jeez, does he get there in the yards enough? I'm bullish, man. I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
I think the running back room is so bad, but
Yeah.
I keep projecting Dak for enough points.
Yep.
They have to come from somewhere. So I guess he has to have them.
Mike, did you? Sorry, did I miss? Oh, sorry, you had it. Obviously, I'm going to take the over because he was my league winner. I don't believe in Brandon Cooks. I mean, I don't answer these questions easier for you, but I'll just say
they don't have anyone behind. They don't have anyone
Ferg
behind
up in the rankings.
so.
I think this
Ferg's,
question just absolutely just
yeah.
You actually got me here.
I think he's going to have 2 or 3 of those games this year where he gets 60, 70 yards and 2 touchtouchdowns. And there's your 15 points. So I think it's very, very reasonable. So, all right, boys, the best segment. You ready? Quick fire, rapid round, legit or bullshit. And if you're in the chat, fire away with us. You ready? Christian McCaffrey will have more receiving touchdowns this year than Sam Laporta.
Oh my.
Receiving touchdowns.
Yes.
Receiving.
Yes.
Okay. So legit for Mike on CMC, more receiving touchdowns than Laporta.
I'm going no.
Well, so Laporta only had 4, if I remember correctly.
Laporta had 10.
Or it was 10?
CMC had 6 for context. And that's why I gave you that stat earlier in the night about Laporta had 10. Yeah, the next closest tight ends were all at 6. So Rafi going with legit.
I can go legit. I'm going to stick with my legit.
Okay. This one's going to be fire. Here we go. Keon Coleman will have more receiving yards than Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Oh, 110% legit.
Okay, so legit for Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Got Perry in the chat. Legit. He's buying
110%.
Keon Coleman will have more receiving yards than JSN. Victorious does not, but Victorious hates he hates Coleman. So that
wait, hold on. Oh, is it in his? Are you using that this season or when the same as his rookie season? No, I know. Season. Okay.
Oh, you're saying he'll have more than JSN had last year? No, this year.
No, or his rookie season. Got it. No,
head to head.
Coleman done. Yep.
Okay, Coleman.
I'm taking JSN here.
All right. I knew this one would get stirred up. I knew it would get stirred up.
Keon in touchdowns will beat him, but honestly, I think JSN's going to get him in yardage. I think he gets him in yardage.
Yards. Yep.
Oh, no.
Total catches and yards.
Put this slander out there. Ridiculous.
Yeah, don't put that in. Yeah, don't put that one in. That one's rough. All right, you ready?
Ridiculous, Josiah. We agreed on so many things.
Spicy. It gets even more spicy, boys. You ready?
Oh, God. All you.
Samuel Darnold.
Yes.
Sam Darnold will finish ahead of Derek Carr and Daniel Jones.
No, just bullshit.
QB numbers.
Bullshit. Okay. We don't like that one. So we no belief in Darnold. Just QB finish, like QB 24, QB 23, like where are they going to finish?
I'm going to go. Yeah, I got to go bullshit.
Yeah. Okay.
Get him on
all right. Yeah. Nobody's really in. I wanted to get a pulse check on.
I don't know if Darnold's better than Nick Mullins.
Ooh. I don't know. Ooh.
I think Darnold's better than Nick
Perry's
Mullins.
the only one in the chat that says yes. Everyone else was a bullshit on this. Okay, here we go.
He just wanted to rile me up. Ridiculous.
It's all good. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
In this one, I love this one. I really want to stir the pot. In full PPR, Tyreek Hill will outscore the entire Patriots wide receiver core combined.
100%.
Legit or bullshit? Kendall says BS.
I think it's legit.
Okay, I mean we're talking about like they got like 20 wide receivers in that room, so he's got to score anyway. All right, so Tyreek Hill, we're split in the chat here. We got legit here from Wicked Pompano coming in. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins will have more combined fantasy points than A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith.
Ooh, that's a
Legit.
good one.
Very legit.
Legit for Kendall. So he's going to take the Bengals receivers, the Bengals 2 over the Eagles 2.
Interesting.
You know what? Don't put it that way, though.
Just those two.
No, I get that, but
Yeah,
I'm definitely not taking. I'm not taking the receivers over the receivers. I'm just taking the significantly better quarterback against the significantly worse passer.
My God,
that's what I'm doing here.
Oh, me and Kendall just mind melded to the same person. Yeah, same thing.
Okay.
No, like
that's
the first time we've
I'm
agreed
taking
on
Burrow is going to hit a few more targets
Yeah.
than Jalen Hurts.
I love how we both agree that Burrow's the better quarterback of the two.
That being said, I like the wide receivers better too.
We had a lot of legit on that one in the chat as well. All right, here we go.
I just don't want to throw shade because I love your take on Devonta Smith.
Thank you.
The entire show. That's my favorite take the entire show.
I played Devonta. I picked Devonta Smith last year, so I
think he flat out outscores AJ Brown this year. That's my
all right. I don't know if I'm ready to go that. All right, here we go.
I'm fucking there, dude.
If Rashee Rice does not get suspended, and right now it does not look like he will.
Doesn't look like it. Yeah.
So let's say. So here we go. So the basis of the question: if Rashee Rice does not get suspended, he will finish inside the top 15 at the wide receiver position. Victorious, legit.
I want to say
legit.
I think I'm going to go legit, and it's right on. You're at the number that I would think you would be is 15.
I feel like I set pretty good lines for a
you
lot
set
of these.
Very good lines.
You did honestly.
I do my research. I'm a big data nerd. So I don't just like pull this out of.
I hope like some
bum.
random like odds bookmakers been listening in. Like those
so,
about to get recruited. That was pretty.
No, that was a great line because 15, like 14, 15 is about where I had them. So.
Well, Rasta and I, after Rasta's best ball draft last night, we were just chatting in the studio and we were going through like dynasty stuff. And he was like, okay, if Rashee Rice doesn't get the suspension, if he comes off the Super Bowl, nothing happens. He's just been clean and whistle clean all off season. Where do you rank him in dynasty? And I was like, I've got to get that into some form of a question for tomorrow night.
I picked him in one of my dynasty draft, like dynasty startups that I ended up leaving at one point. He was my wide receiver 3 in the 4th round with Garrett Wilson, Nico Collins, and him. And I was scared to death when I heard about everything.
yeah, for sure.
Spicy take, but I got to tell you, I've been falling on Rice and it has nothing to do with the injury. The more I think about it, like, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's I'll keep it quick. Prospect profile to prospect profile. Xavier Worthy is a hands down across the board better prospect than Rashee Rice. Like when you comp them,
really?
Yes, for sure.
For hot
that's hot
take.
That's not a hot take. I'm just saying, like any NFL scout will be like, yeah, I mean, on our boards, like one guy just ranked higher.
I can't see.
Look where they got drafted, right? So if Rice was so good, why didn't he get drafted in the first round?
I can't see it.
But the same side of the coin, though, is why did Worthy run himself into the first technical whatever? They traded up for him. Yeah, did he run himself into the first round? So
he did.
All right, let's talk about another Chief because that's the next one on my list. We're about halfway through. I love this game. This game's so fun. Isaiah Pacheco will have more.
You do it every time, by the way. You're also a little instigator. That's why I know you have you have a little daughter at home because you are a troublemaker.
I am, brother. I got to stir the pot, man. Isaiah Pacheco will have more rushing touchdowns than Saquon Barkley.
Ooh, that's spicy. I think I'm gonna
BS.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
total BS.
Bullshit. Yeah.
Okay. Chat. Let's see what the chat thinks on that one. Are we in on rushing touchdowns for Pacheco or Bar? And the reason I'm picking some of these guys, obviously I do a ton of metrics and research, but Isaiah Pacheco's started the season in like the 5-6 turn. He's going off the board. He's in the third round. He's in the third round right now. I mean, it's so people are hot. That's why I was like, all right, let's see where people are. Because Barkley
7 last season.
Everyone's always been on Barkley, but like Pacheco's a riser, man. So we've got they got a couple legits on this one here in the chat.
I'm going bullshit.
I like him.
They got a better line for the
lead
Eagles.
The league in pass rate in the red zone.
Yeah. That's why I said rushing touchdowns. All right, here we go. Kendall, I know how you're gonna. This one's kind of easy for Kendall, but Cooper Kupp will have a higher fantasy finish than Puka Nacua.
Yeah, no, I'm legit on that.
Legit on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I
we're all
wouldn't bet
legit.
on it, right? Like the
Right.
Vegas odds have Nakua at better, and I'm just gonna trust them on this one. But like, it's more like 60-40 or
Yeah.
better, you know?
Here comes. No Tennessee Titans wide receiver will finish inside the top 20.
Top 20?
Not top 24. Top
Okay.
20.
Wow.
Wow.
Then I'm gonna have to go bullshit. I see him at the end of the 20. Like I see him at the lower end of
So you think
you
think Ridley's going to finish 18, 19, 20?
No, the other way.
So
You said
you're
that
saying legit. No Titans receiver will finish inside the
Oh,
top
no
20.
tight end. Then legit, yeah.
Legit,
Then
okay.
I think he'll be outside the 20.
It's legit. It's close. I actually think I have him ranked as like it's like projections rankings, right? Like my projections probably have him a little bit lower, but like I have him ranked as like my tight end or my wide receiver 19. So technically I'm going against that, but I'm taking the field where I don't think he climbs to like past 15. I like him because he's a value, but his range of outcomes are significantly higher as like a
100%.
wide receiver 22, 23, 25, which is still a value where he's going. But yeah, that's an elite range of guys.
I set the line at wide receiver 20 because Hopkins was wide receiver 22 last year, and Ridley was in a different team, but he was wide receiver 18 and 19. So it's
that's
like,
a great
all right,
line.
new team. Is he? Because I started it when I was writing these. I was like, it's going to be wide receiver 2, and then I was like, no, that's a pretty. I think one of them could get in the top 24.
Well, even with a healthy Hopkins, he has a better opportunity to do it. But without Hopkins, I don't think I can see that, especially with Will Levis and the way that he is. He's more of a run first guy, and he's actually decent with his legs. Yeah, they could go downfield and throw it and stretch it if they really need to, but honestly, I just don't see it. And I see him just outside. Like he's a bottom end wide receiver 2. I'd rather have him as a wide receiver 3.
Okay. 5 more. Mike Evans will not reach 1,000 receiving yards this season.
Oh,
bullshit! You just never bet against that, dude.
Yeah, I'll never bet.
I just wanted to like I bet that last year. I was like, I don't believe in Baker. He's going to break his streak. And then when he did it, I was like, okay, maybe he's because like I'm sorry, when you go from whoever the quarter Jameis Winston to Tom Brady, yes, you're going to hit, and you have a Mike Evans, fine. All right, so we're all in on Evans again. Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah.
Evan Ingram, this is a good one. I like this one.
Nice.
Evan Ingram and Brian Thomas Jr. will have more receiving yards than Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis.
I think that's legit, actually.
So the tight end and the rookie.
Yeah, I think that's legit, actually. I have a similar thought process for the Jags.
Okay.
Yeah.
Legit on that one. I have to give this real quick before I read the question. Since 2016, Travis Kelce has never finished worse than the tight end 3. Travis Kelce will finish as the tight end 4 or worse in 2024.
Legit.
No.
Kendall, you're in on Kelce again.
Okay. I think he's locked in.
Mike, not so much. Okay.
Nope.
The Chiefs' passing offense was massively down last year. Their defense won them like 7 games down the stretch. Travis wasn't needed in half of those games. There was some fluky shit. Travis had some passing. I could go on for hours. It's just like the Chiefs' offense just was statistically like a little bit worse than they're supposed to. You can't be like Mahomes is the best ever and Kelsey's like that good and be like, yeah, but he could still be shit, right? And Mahomes could just like find a way to fail. Because all you guys that bet on San Fran in the Super Bowl, like rigged or not, okay, some shit happens with the Chiefs. They either no, he's locked in.
I mean, it's the Matt Stafford disrespect. You're drafting Puka Nacua at the 110. And you're taking Cooper Kupp somewhere between the 203 and the 210. And Stafford's in the 12th round. I don't get it.
Yeah.
All right.
The last thing I mentioned this, guys. Remember, tight end sucks. Don't forget that. All of you guys who are all in on every rookie since this last class and a half has been like great. Just calm down, take a breath, and remember all those years growing up playing fantasy where tight end is a worthless position.
Oh,
the NFL has morphed. The NFL has gotten more pass heavy. They have seen the Chiefs with Kelce, the Super Bowl winner, has had a very good tight end for a long time. Chiefs, Patriots, they both mastered it. Not everyone is them. Not every play caller can do or what they do. They're becoming more that way. But I'm just saying, would you be at all surprised if all of a sudden you're like, Not like tight end 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? But when you just look at it, we're like, wow, tight ends. Man, during the draft process, we thought there was a bunch of fine ones, and they all suck because they all had very meh production because they're tight ends and a non-tight end premium. They just don't do enough. I wouldn't be surprised. Kelsey has always been immune to that because he's literally the wide receiver 1 for the NFL's QB1. And that has to, if that's not locked in, we are flipping coins.
I need to get Andrew Cooper on here like tomorrow. I'm sick of that slander for tight ends.
It's someone, I don't remember who it was, but someone in the chat asked earlier, right? I think it might have been Perry. Now that it's coming back to me, but is this a Brock Bowers season? And I said, no, not with that quarterback room.
No.
Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews are the wide receiver 1s for their own team. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're both going to finish in the top 3 at the position. So I'm in. I think that one's bullshit. It's my own question. I don't answer my own questions, but I do think that one's BS. I believe in Kelce. We know the answer for Kendall on this one, but
we always know Kendall's answers.
I know. Well, you're going to know.
He made the questions.
I made the questions. Yeah. Anthony Richardson will finish inside the top 3 at the quarterback position. Legit or bullshit?
I'm gonna go bullshit.
Okay. So,
but it's because I don't believe he'll hit top 3. I think it'll be just below that.
Okay, Kendall, are you? I mean, he's your league winner. Are you top 3 for him?
He's my tight end. He's my QB3.
Victorious, Wicked Pompano, both thinking that's a big pile of poo poo. Perry thinks poo poo.
I don't think his passing. I think here's my spicy take, and I know it's against Kendall's thought. To me, Anthony Richardson feels a lot like Justin Fields.
Interesting.
I don't even know what to do with that.
I think you just offended Kendall.
I need to rethink. I think our friendship. I don't know. I don't know what just happened.
Kendall, you need to finish this 2 minutes ago.
We have to finish this take, though. I need to hear the rest of this.
No, it's more of a feeling. It has nothing to do. We don't have enough statistics to show. The only thing that we have is that he had more rushing yards than passing, and at the same time, he just. I don't see how he's any different than what Justin Fields was. Justin Fields was a run-first guy. Anthony Richardson, same concept. I just don't see. I see him as valuable in fantasy. I think he's a below average real life quarterback. And I'm just not in on him in any shape, way, or form. He just feels a lot more like Justin Fields than he does like a Jalen Hurts or.
Justin Fields' best statistical season was 2022. He finishes the QB.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, but that was
1,100 rushing. Yeah, but
and 2,900.
So, do you think that Anthony Richardson? We still have one more of these questions to go. Do you think that Richardson can throw for more than 2,242 yards and 17 touchdowns? Because I do.
I think I might be able to do that.
I don't know.
Let me convince you. Classic in 60 seconds. Okay, I'm going to use your exact take to do it. Okay,
here we go.
Take the aforementioned Justin Fields that Anthony Richardson is so reminiscent of. Clearly, okay. Now put Justin Fields on the Colts with a significantly better offensive line. Significantly, I'm not just saying better. I'm saying the Bears' offensive line was one of the worst I've ever seen in my entire life. Justin Fields, with as fast as he is, was like leading the league in sacks. Some games. It was a pretty bad O-line. You can't look at like talent-wise. Like I'm saying, they were just gaping, slashing holes. I watched every second of every game. It was painful to watch a fast player get taken down because he couldn't accelerate, because that's how open the lanes were. A defender that's slow can't catch Justin Fields. They were catching him because they had more momentum than him standing in the pocket. It was bad O-line. So put him on the Colts. Coaching-wise, massive upgrade with the Colts, right? We got to say at least significant to some degree across the board. Team culture, front and back office, the building everybody walks into every day, organizational structure. If you look at the Super Bowl winners, really shitty structures don't tend to win historically, right? And some teams the Steelers could have the worst, every year and they still be 500, right? So the point I'm saying is you take Fields and you put him into that situation. How often does he still fall flat? And how often is he a meh NFL quarterback that still smashes it for fantasy?
No, I get it. Like I said, he's a better fantasy quarterback than he is a
ESPN was like, Lamar, can he win a playoff game? Is he gonna?
They were talking about him being a wide receiver. He wasn't even going to be a quarterback, and he's won 2 MVPs.
How'd the fantasy community talk about him, but he was good
Oh,
enough
I
to keep
didn't
the
like.
job. He was just good enough to keep the
I
job.
hated Lamar too when he came out too. After his MVP season, I was very low on him in general because he couldn't get above the certain threshold that he needs to be at. That's my issue with
I
it.
mean,
Is
the
he-
one thing we should all be able to agree on
he
is
has
that
to throw. He has to throw for over 3,500 yards and rush for over 800 to be effective.
I don't know, man.
Dude, that's pretty effective.
I think that's pretty effective.
That's
and I think
real
Well,
effective.
that's really effective.
I think
but
he rushes for 1,000
that's
yards.
Lamar. That's Lamar's stats from last year. He can't. I don't see him doing that. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. He has to throw for 3,500 and rush for 800 with the 24 passing touchdowns and 5 rushing, just to get to the point that you're talking about. And
here's
honestly,
Lamar's QB1 season.
Well, no, we can't use that.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
Why?
Not for this particular. Not for Anthony Richardson.
Why? It's a rushing quarterback.
It's an MVP season. It's his one exception.
It's not the one exception. He has 2 MVP seasons, and he was the QB4 last year. He's the QB. Here's his QB1 season: 3,100 yards passing.
Yep.
1,200 rushing. 36 passing
accurate.
touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns. The only stat part of that, I'm in on Richardson.
Yeah, no, I know you are.
The only stat line that I don't think he can hit is the 36 passing touchdowns. I think he can throw for 3,000 yards. I think he can rush for 1,200. I think what he doesn't get in the ceiling performance from the passing side, he'll make up for in the rushing side. I put it this way: someone's going to be right, someone's going to be wrong.
No, understood. I
that we can agree on.
Mentally,
I don't think there's a middle ground here.
No, it's fine. I agree.
Not going to be one.
No, like it's so weird how he's so polarizing. Like you can get on board with Dak, or you can get like, oh yeah, I see how Dak's a good quarterback, regardless of like, I mean, if you're like, I know it's America's team's the Cowboys, and there's people that just hate him because they're America's team.
I'm a Giants fan.
Well, you're a Giants fan, but I'm a Niners fan, and Kendall, like, I don't know how you feel, but like, I just don't like the Dallas Cowboys.
No, but I like Dak Prescott.
Right.
I don't even know that I don't like him, but I love to hate him.
If I had to choose a quarterback for my team, I'd rather have Dak Prescott over Daniel Jones any day.
Well, sure.
Like I hope he was available for the next year. I hope the Dallas Cowboys fumble it and make it where he is a free agent next season and someone we can target. Believe me,
I think that could happen.
That. Oh no, hey,
it's Jerry.
I'm hoping, but at the end of the day, it's one of those things where I like players like I focus more on the guys that are able to get it done and be able to spread the ball out. Anthony Richardson, I feel like at one point he's going to hyper target and it's going to be an issue. I don't see his ability to do. I don't see him being able to get to where you guys think he's going to be. I think, unfortunately, I'm projecting him a lot lower in passing yardage. I understand his rushing yardage is probably going to be in that 800 round. Like, I understand that, and that's his.
I think it's higher than that. All right, we still have one more. We still have one more. We should have done this one last.
That's too much.
It was too much. This one might stir it up too. This is the last question.
By the way, this is going to be like hours after the Colts
play
a single game. Like,
over.
I don't even know if I'll watch the rest of the NFL games. I'll just have to hop on to Discord and
at least I have some supporters here.
No, Miami Dolphins running back.
Oh, nice.
Will go over 1,000 yards rushing this season.
Oh my!
And before Victorious blows me up about how Achan's going to win the MVP for 5,000 rushing yards. No Dolphins running back will go over 1,000 rushing yards this season. Yep, there's Victorious. BS.
Wow, and you had him. You had that line. You had that line perfect, and I hate you for it.
I don't think I have him as 1,000-yard rusher.
I think I'm going to go legit.
If I had to pick a side,
I think that Mostert can get over the 1,000.
I picked.
Oh, you got Mostert? You think about Mostert? Oh,
you think Mostert can do it?
I think if all the running backs out of that team, I think Mostert can do it.
Okay.
I think Achane, it's tough to predict, and if you're going to throw in, if you're going to project his particular offensive, output with like 15 or 13 games, because you have to throw in a little bit of unknown.
I think one of them gets above 1,000.
Okay.
I think at least
you're
one
both
does.
going to take BS on that one. Okay. The reason I picked that one is because it's the Dolphins, and we haven't talked about them the way we've talked about other teams in these ambiguous situations. Because we don't like the other runners in the end. Like, we don't like Tennessee's ambiguous situation. We don't like Pittsburgh because the ceiling isn't there.
Well, it's because of the ADP for each. If you look at those, they're the only. If you look at every other running back group in the league,
oh yeah, they're very close.
No, everyone else is except for
Right.
the Miami Dolphins. They are so far apart that it's fine to go with one or the other. When you look at those other ambiguous ones, they're within a round, if not right next to each other.
But we had the question earlier from someone in the chat was saying, like, you know, do you think they'll deploy all of the running backs like they tried to do? I don't think they will, but I think Jalen Wright's going to factor in. We know how high we are on Tyreek and Waddle with their receiving abilities. Kendall, you had Tua as a league winner, so you have him projected at 45, I think, 100 passing yards. Like, someone has to fail in that offense.
Understood.
Right? Like, you can't all get there and like everyone's got, you know, 1,000-yard seasons and double-digit touchdowns. Like, it can't. It's just not enough to go around.
100%. Yeah.
But we're not talking. Yeah, well, maybe in that offense, yeah. But like, we're not talking about the Dolphins as an ambiguous running back room because the ceilings, regardless of the ADP, people are so in on Achane, or they're so in on the fact that Mostert is discounted that the ceiling is so much higher than a Tony Pollard and a Tajay Spears, than a Jalen Warren and a Najee Harris.
Yeah,
the ceilings for those guys aren't close.
Yeah,
but I think Miami's more of a. It's just a sexy committee.
Yeah,
it's still a committee. It's like, it's not like Saquon Barkley where he's the clear guy in Philadelphia and there's no one else. Like, Miami's a committee.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's why, you know, you can have one of the two. It doesn't matter which one you think is better. One of the two is going to be an RB1 for Miami. For the Titans, both are going to be RB2s. Like, that's their
ceiling. Yeah.
That's their ceiling. They can either be a running back 20 or, you know, roughly around that particular area. So I agree. I mean, but they are the only group that can they're the only running back group that can actually be in that particular situation. Everyone else is just too low on the totem pole, or everyone else is just a handcuff compared for guys like Saquon or guys like, you know, Henry and, you know, all
Christian McCaffrey,
Bijan, Bright. Well, I don't know about Breece Hall, and that's just because of how good. Yeah. But
yeah. All right, boys. Well, that was another segment of legit or bullshit. I think we keep that because I think people really like it. The chat blows up. You guys go back and forth. Like, I think it's awesome. I think the segment. I got really good DMs last week too. People are like, "Dude, great lines, great questions." So I'm gonna keep it for sure. So, all right, we're running twice as long as we should be, but I love it. This is what it's all about. If you're in the chat, make sure you jump over to the Fantasy Football Tavern on YouTube. Check out Kendall's content. Absolutely make sure you subscribe to Get Right Fantasy Network. We still have a couple of spots left over for the mock draft tournament.
Sorry, that's
Wicked Pompano. We will not have any of that. The Niners are winning the Super Bowl. You know, I'm kidding. We're gonna. And obviously, appreciate y'all being here for another episode of The Extra Point. Last quick announcement from me. Obviously, the show has been at 7 p.m. on Thursdays. I am going to be moving once the football season starts to 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern, and we will have to go for an hour, boys, because none of us, myself included, want to miss the kickoff for Thursday Night Football. So we are going to be moving the show to 4 p.m. Pacific time once the season starts. Jump in next week. I don't have a topic yet. My brain is, I've got a couple different, we might do sleepers next week. We might just do an entire segment of legit bullshit and see where the show goes, because I think we're having so much fun with it. So, if you're not subscribed, jump into The Extra Point. You can also follow along or listen along on Spotify and Patreon. Look forward to seeing Mike and Kendall as we do a ton more collaborations throughout each and every week. And as we get into it, boys, we are 20 days away from football.
It just
Let's
changed.
Go.
Yay.
Let's go. For everybody at the Get Right Fantasy Network, for myself, Phil Ruskin here at The Extra Point, thanks for tuning in to another episode. We're out.